First came here in Washington 8 years ago. How did you come here?
Well, the reason I came here was because of my husband's job. He worked for a company in Belgium and they also have a plant here in Washington, and they decided to ask him if he wanted to move here. We came here for 1 week to explore. They showed us all the good stuff and we decided to move here.
That's good. Is your husband American or is he Belgian?
He is Spanish. He was born in Belgium, but he has a Spanish nationality.
You mentioned that you were raising your family here in the US. Is it something that is hard to do?
It's easy because, again, school is very close by. Everything is easily accessible. It's very easy to raise a family here because it is a very family-oriented community. So those are.
Is it hard for you to wrap your mind around, the school system, or is it something that's very easy for you to understand?
I have my issues with the school system here because I feel that my biggest problem is that they do not challenge kids enough. Maybe that's the school system here in Washington. I can't compare it with anything else because we haven't lived anywhere else. But they have a policy which is called No Child Left Behind, which means no matter how much a student is struggling, he will go on to the next grade. Which, in my opinion, because my daughter I think she's pretty smart, she's at the top of her class, the smarter kids are kind of left on their own while they're overachieving to get that one student that is struggling to go on.
Another dimension of raising your family is that your daughter goes to school in English, but you speak Dutch at home. Have you noticed that sometimes she mixes both language?
When she was younger, she did, but now I would say she's fluent in Dutch. Her English is probably better than mine will ever be, because for her it's probably her native language. It's the language she hears the most, the language she talks the most. She's immersed in the American culture throughout the day. So.
Do you speak English at all at the house, or you really keep it in Dutch?
Sometimes, mostly, when it's homework time, I know it's easier for her to do that in English because, if I have to start explaining the things she's learning about, for example, in science, if I have to start explaining that into Dutch to her, then she may get confused.
Mm-hmm. What's the hardest for you about living in the US?
I would say the hardest part for me is the difference in food. If I miss one thing about Belgium, then it's their food culture and the food that you can get. Here in the Midwest, I'm going to say everything is a lot sweeter, saltier, greasier, and for me, it was a very hard thing to adjust to.
How do you keep healthy and how do you keep your family healthy in that context?
I try to make everything I can, I make myself. I try to cook healthy every day. Of course, we go out to restaurants sometimes, but I try to limit fried food because here in Washington, people love fried chicken, fried fish, fried everything.
Everything's fried.
So we try to limit that, and I think we're pretty healthy. So.
Oh, that's really great. You miss the food in Belgium, but do you miss living in Belgium? How often do you get to go back?
We try to go back once a year, and I miss Belgium less and less because you start to get used to living here, to the lifestyle here, and right now I don't miss Belgium a lot.
When did you have that moment where you started to really feel comfortable in the US? How long did it take?
It probably took several years because, the first year you live here, it's crazy and you have no idea what you're doing. And then the second year you start to meet people, you start to enjoy the things that are around you. And then I guess after 3-4 years, it's like, this is home. When I go back to Belgium, it's I'm visiting my country, but this is home now.
I see. It was said, I read many times, I do many research that, as you said, the first year is like discovery. Second year you learn to master your environment. Third year you start to have new roots. I was told that after that, when you reach year 4 and year 5, it's either the moment where you either stay or you go back. But I was told many times, if you stay more than 5 years, you will never leave. What do you think?
I agree with that. After 5 years, you start to think, it's been 5 years since I made the move. You make a balance of how much do I like this, what I'm doing right now, compared to how much do I miss my family and friends, and the country I was born and raised in. And I agree, after 5 years you decide, okay, because now after 8 years I know I've made my decision. I could never go back and adjust to Belgian lifestyle again.
Have you made peace with that decision, or do you sometimes struggle?
Most of the time I'm totally at ease with it. There are some times, family reunions that you miss. If a family member passes away, you have to miss, their funeral. Those are times when you miss being close to the people that you have known all your life.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the times I am totally happy here and I like living here.
Would you say that the fact that your husband is from Europe and also grew up in Belgium helps in understanding you and how you feel? Do you think that that's an asset?
I do, yes. I think that made it easier because, you always have someone to go home to that understands, that goes through the same things, goes through the same phases, and yes, that definitely helps.
When you moved to the US, what was the biggest adjustment you had to make?
The biggest adjustment, probably not the way that people live here, but the way that their religion is a huge part of their lives, and that is a big difference to what I'm used to. And they're expecting, that that's the same thing for everyone.
Would you say that if you don't have a church, that it's socially harder to make it in the US, or that to connect with people?
It's definitely harder to be part of the community.
If you had one advice to give to another immigrant living in the United States, what would that be?
My best advice would be to keep an open mind and try not to judge people and live through every emotion the fullest.
That's a tough one, because you are at ease with your decision. I'm just going to start year 3. And so if I had to apply that advice in the morning, I would be like a good smile and laugh and come back home and like cry and like be hysterical. In the US, you always have to smile, you always have to be positive. So being able to live your emotions to the fullest might be a challenge, especially in the Midwest.
It takes a while to make new friends, but after several years, like after 5 years, you know who your real friends are, who will support you no matter what, and if you don't put that happy face on, they will understand, if you start to get to know the real person behind the mask.
So the advice would be keep an open mind and let yourself have your emotions, and if you keep an open mind and you're true to yourself, then you will have great friends you can rely on. That's great advice. It's a game plan. Well, thank you so much, Karen, for your time. And here we are in Washington, Missouri, and I'll send you some pictures, and actually it's a really cool town.